JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Tuesday, May 27th, 316. Talk really quick about names I'm looking at, and the market can go from there. S&P up pretty much 2%, pretty much at the highs of the session here. SPY's at 590 and change. Hit 591.31 at about 2 o'clock, and then has just been chopping around. Seems like eons ago that the market was tumbling after POTUS said that he was going to slap 50% tariffs on the EU effective June 1st, and uh, the 25% tariffs on iPhones produced outside the US. Uh, it it's it's frustrating when we have these dips, but it's actually a pretty good sign here to see this. I guess we call momentum, right? I mean, today feels like if there was a way to name it, it's like a pigs can fly day. There's so many names that typically don't rally much that have high short interests, and have been kind of left for dead. So I mean, you have obviously, iRobot's up 52%. I don't see any news there. You see names like my one of my old favorites, Trupanion, has a huge short interest. That's up 6%. Lemonade's up 8%. Fubo's up 10.6%, which ironically enough is like Fubo is one of those names after the Hulu news, it rallied, and then it's kind of been left, I wouldn't say left for dead because it's still trading, and it's at $3, but it's kind of back to where the price was. So anyway, name to look at some of the point. But anyway, the big event of the day is obviously is tomorrow with NVIDIA earnings. I mean, you got to figure it's going to be another strong quarter, right? A beat and a raise is I mean, pending if it's not a beat and a raise, then probably the market's going to have some serious weakness tomorrow. It's just a matter of how the market reacts to it, right? And we've seen over the last couple quarters, every time NVIDIA has a strong report, it's almost becomes like a sell the news, whether it's in the after hours, the next day. So I did the implied moves, and if you take a look, it's an implied move is 8% is the average over the last 8 sessions. Let's see if I can. Did I do it here? Yeah. So it's 8.5%. I don't know what the exact implied move, but last quarter was down 8%. The quarter before was flat. The quarter before that down 6%. So I think maybe there's some. I'm not gonna. It's tough to play the calls on that as a name. I haven't traded much, if at all, over the last couple of years. So for me, I stay away. But I have to think it's gonna be strong for the market. Also, we get the second read on first quarter GDP that comes Thursday, and then PC data on Friday, and then sandwiched between that is more earnings. So for me, you take a look. I mean, the SPY's back at levels not seen since Wednesday. Right? I mean, pretty remarkable bounce. And you start looking at, last week I was talking about the 586 to 597 range on the SPY, and then Thursday and then Friday kind of put the kibosh on that, and boom, we're right back into that range again. So I wouldn't be surprised if NVIDIA has a decent report tomorrow after the close. We're knocking on that door of 597. On the flip side, I mean, the 200-day moving average held on Friday, so that's a good sign. I don't know how much weakness a horrible quarter from NVIDIA would put in the markets. I mean, they'll probably a little sell off, but I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying I'm convicted in a beat and raise, but I think it's going to be a strong report. So that's kind of the overall market. It's funny, like the conversation around yields is gone right now. An article that Besant's trying to figure out a way to claw back some of these bank regulations that will allow some of these banks to hold more debt, well, U.S. debt, which maybe that offsets some of the the big red flag that these foreign countries hold a lot of the U.S. debt. But anyway, anything that's good for yields, I guess, works out well here. And take a look at when yields go down, no one talks about them, and yields are. I mean, TLT soaring today, and I don't even know. Did I put up? I thought I had it here. Did I? Do I have it yet? I mean, yields are down like 4.42%. So just pretty good stuff there. All right, sorry about that, folks. And the dollar's back over at 99.50. All right, so now just some individual names, and for me again, 597 is kind of like that spot. I think that's the target for this week, and then if we can break that, obviously have some room into the 600s. And then on the flip side, 586 now. So if I don't know for tomorrow, but after the close tomorrow with NVIDIA, that'll be the big kind of read, and then we can see where things go from there. All right, so now just individual names, and like I was saying, not pigs can fly, and I don't think GameStop's a pig, but boom, right out of the gate, soared all the way up to 35.74 midday, and then has pulled back here, still in the green, up 4%. I mean, it's on the heels of its 16% rally last week, up 7% on Friday. So, I talked about locking some in, and so I locked some of my calls in for over 150%. I was looking for other strikes, and it's insane, right? So there's 24 days to option expiration on the June the monthlies, right? So the monthly June 20th strikes, the $100 calls are 62 cents by 65 cents. They're actually now they're back to flat, but they were green earlier. So you're talking a stock has to go $64 in 24 days, and you're paying premium for that. That's crazy, right? I mean, if it's so crazy, you would think people would be out just selling the premium right now. But I don't know if if there's some unexpected catalyst or whatever. But I mean, what that bodes well for those in the call. So the premiums have been holding up. So the unfortunate part is I would like to get some higher strikes and further out strikes, but that risk reward just doesn't jive for me. So for now, still plenty of time on the Junes. I'll just continue to hold the rest. I thought 34, I think it was 34.70 was the 2025 high, so we broke that. We're back below it right now. If we get back over that tomorrow, I think it's $40 in the coming sessions. So that's GameStop. So riding those free with some profits. And you take a look at a longer chart here. I mean, there's plenty of room once it breaks. And again, once that update comes out and you just worry that it is, hopefully it's got some surprise in there. It's not sell the news event. Like I keep saying that I think their Bitcoin purchase should be based on just their offerings, and they should just continue to hold their cash hoard as a passive investment income, right? So that's GameStop. And then W, right? So this morning I was looking at some names to play for some spec calls this week. I've had on a watch list RH. I'm still watching Reddit. Of as crazy as that sounds, because Reddit's been a tough one, especially the last two times I've traded. Uh, but then Wayfair, and it was running in the morning. It was like 37. It was up like 4%. And once it started to really break out, I'm like, this chart looks better. Premiums are less, so easier to play. So in lieu of getting the restoration, the RH calls, I got the Ws. And then in a matter of 20 minutes, I was able to close them out for over 100%. Um, and it just kept going. And, actually it just hit highs at about 245 earlier. So I don't want to be in a spot where there's some kind of downgrade, because it's one of those names that has some wild swings. So I locked some more out for over 200%. I'll just hold the rest as a spec trade. You look at the chart, the 200-day moving average, which I was looking at last time when after the China news, is 42 and change. So if it gets over that tomorrow, that's off to the races. And the funny thing is I was looking at RH, and I was looking at the 40 strikes, and the 40 strikes on W, you could have got 20 cents. Then there were 21, then there were 25. And I think when I was looking at, then I'm like, let me get the 41s. And those were like 18 cents. And I tried to get them at 19. So if I just looked at risk reward, I'm like, if this runs, it's not going to matter if I have the 41s or the 40s. But if it doesn't run, I don't want to have too much risk on, right? So that's kind of the thought process and rationale why I added the 41s in lieu of trying to get the 40s, because I missed out on getting them cheap, but it still served the purpose. So I'll be riding those free, but great setup there. And who knows, Vietnam news, the thing trades north of 45, and then the calls will be serious multi-value. You can actually make a case here for bull flag, I guess, but that's a stretch. But if you take a look at a longer trend here on W, it hasn't traded over its 200-day moving average for any substantial period of time in like a year. So not saying this is the time it does, but if it gets over that and can hold, I might get some longer dated strikes to move to like 55, 60. All right, so that's W. And then I also got DELL calls. I talked about DELL at the watch list this morning. It's a name I watched last week. Just kind of chopped around in the range. I think it was 108 to 10, maybe it was 109 to 115, somewhere in there. But you would have had to time the swings perfectly to make any kind of money on the call side. Here it is. They have earnings Thursday after the close. I figure the premium's going to hold up well, and then the play will be to lock some of the calls in before earnings to cover costs. If I can't do that, I'll just close them out similarly to what I did with DEC last week. But also you have some catalysts, right? So tomorrow, NVDA is certainly, NVIDIA has talked about DELL countless times on conference calls, on their GTC conference, all those different events. So any positive news there. And DELL's I think it's such a great story that surprised that it hasn't started to trade back into the 120s, 130s. Its earnings is going to be, it's going to be either back back under 105 or so, or it's going to be over 130 bucks. But I think it could run even before earnings with NVIDIA. So that's kind of thought process there. Calls are hanging up, holding up well despite the moves here this afternoon. So I'll continue to hold those. And then when I get an opportunity to close them out, I'll do that. Other names, TripAdvisor, disappointing here. I mean, it's up another 4%. The rest of I only had a couple more of the Junes left. Those are still floundering, but I still like this one. Back over its 200-day at 1456. Maybe I'll look to get some more strikes, but I'll be patient there. Reddit, another one of those teases, right? Up at the open, right away, boom. It's like sellers came in, sold it down under 100 bucks. Then it bounced into by 10 o'clock, and then it's just kind of been chopping around at 104 ever since. I'm not sure if I'm going to trade it this week, but don't be surprised if I see an opportunity. There's RH, and frustrating to see. I mean, it's up 2.4%, but considering some of these other names that are rallying today, especially W up 11%, you would think it would be up more. And not only that, the spreads are tough, so premiums are expensive on RH. So even if you want to trade it, it's tough to find a decent risk reward strike. But always on watch. And I keep saying at some point, and probably it's going to happen when I'm not in, the CEO is going to announce some kind of crazy financial shenanigans, either a buyback, a huge dividend, one-time special divvy, something like that. And then last but not least here, MDB. And the MDB's just been chopping around. It's been up like 1.5% for the entire day. And another name, I start to look because they have earnings on June 4th. You try to look for calls to play for premium build, and it's like impossible, at least for how my mind functions, right? So it's at $189 here. And if you go up to 250, they're $1.46 by $1.58. So I mean, you can get some and then hope it breaks into the 200s. You take a look at the 240s; those are 213 by 230. So maybe I'll get a double on a $10 move. It's just not the type of trade I would like to take on. So if I see other opportunities, or if the premiums start to come out as the week progresses, maybe I'll look to get some of those. But for now, I'll be patient. Yeah, and then just crazy pigs can fly day, just crazy stuff. iRobot, it's up 54%, and I mean, it's just not a name I'm gonna trade. Still eyeing Roku here, but I'm trying to think of some of the other names. XYZ. I mean, disappointing earnings, and their earnings were so bad. I'm like, I'm gonna take it on a do not trade list, and then it's been up and bouncing ever since. Upgrade this morning. I think that's it, folks. Let's have a great day. I'll be back. Rock and roll.